Hello and welcome to the Physician's First podcast, where you, the physician, comes first. Our goal is to help you defeat physician burnout, become the best version of yourself, and practice medicine on your own terms. We'll do this through optimizing your health, wealth, and well-being. I'm your host, Jeff LaFond. Let's get started with the show. Welcome back to the Physician's First podcast. We have an exciting guest that wears many different hats, very entrepreneurial. We have Dr. Raj Venkatramani. Raj is a pediatric oncologist. He is practicing full-time. He is a real estate investor. As I mentioned, he's an entrepreneur. I would say a serial entrepreneur. He's the founder and manager of Redoc Capital and Redoc Agency, and that's REI Doc, so real estate investor doc. He owns and manages several properties in the Houston area. He's invested in multifamily syndications for over 7 years. And really, really exciting news. He has learned a lot about artificial intelligence, and he is hosting an online summit in February 2025 called the Real Estate AI Summit. And I believe it's realestateaisummit.com, if I'm correct. So Raj, hey, thanks for coming on the show. Super nice to meet you. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be part of this podcast.
It's so fun to meet other doctors, and especially you're doing different things, and I'm excited to kind of dive into all the activities that you have going on outside of your clinical work. If you don't mind just giving the audience a little background on kind of who you are and how you ended up being this doctorpreneur.
So I'm a pediatric oncologist. I'm based out of Houston, Texas. As we were talking before, I'm what you call as an academic oncologist. So majority of time I do research I'm a solid tumor doctor, research in sarcomas, those kinds of things. And I graduated back in 2011, and around 2017, I was doing all the right things, like any other thing. Initially, I was concentrating on academics, but saving a lot of money, putting in index funds, no adventures, no options, nothing, right? And then at that time, suddenly I realized that, hey, every penny I save, I'm putting in stock market. I need to diversify outside of stock market. That was my initial incentive to look outside of medicine, right? And I wasn't trying to be active person at that time. I had two young kids. My wife was in a different city, and my priority was academic medicine. So then I could not invest in like single family rental, those kinds of things. Didn't have the time. So that's why, without knowing anything about real estate, I started investing in syndications.
Mhm.
I, in fact, remember the first conversation I had with the guy I was going to invest with, and he was going on, and I had to take my kids to swimming. I said, "Okay, stop. I'm sending you money. I don't have time to talk to you."
That's how you vet people when you have kids acting up, right? You're just like, whatever.
Yeah, so I started it, and then over time, I learned more. Every year, just for diversification, I started investing in syndications,
Mhm.
and then learned more about how they work. And then at some point, I was inspired by other people, right? Around 2020, 2021, during COVID time, I saw other doctors doing it. And then I started talking to people similar to this conversation. Um, over a 3 month period, I remember I talked to 100 different people.
Wow.
Not only doctors, non-doctors, everything, what they're doing, and then got the confidence that, oh, I can probably do this if this person is doing it, and then started actively doing real estate syndications, multifamily investing, real estate, etc. I spent about a couple of years learning about it before I jumped in.
Mhm.
And over time, as I was mentioning earlier, I developed systems for my company, which included advertising, marketing, those kinds of things, software. And once I put systems in place, my friends who are in the same space say, hey, can you put that, like, help me implement the same system? So that led to organically growth of another company, which is called Redoc Agency. We help other people market it can be applied for any small business, but we specialize in real estate, where people are trying to raise money for different projects. We help implement systems for them. So I have about 80 clients for that company, which has been started only like a year ago, and we're organically growing. So those are the different hats I
Mhm.
wear. I enjoy everything I do, including medicine, and it has been a great journey so far.
You're obviously technologically savvy, Raj. So, is that something, were you always into technology and learning the new wave of, as technology rolled out? Is that an interest of yours? Like, it's moving so fast currently with AI. How are you, how have you done this? Like, is it a passion of yours or something?
So I don't think I'm any different from any other doctors who liked, especially um, we we think we are good at computers and we want to meddle with things, but I think it grew out of necessity. Most of the time, I learned stuff because, as I said, I'm a full-time physician. I don't have the luxury of time to do stuff, right? So I want to be, hey, what is the most efficient way to do a certain thing, right? For example, for my marketing, I wanted to start a podcast, but I didn't have time to email people to schedule stuff. And so I created automation where I just put someone's email address, and then the automation takes care of everything, schedules them, sends them reminder emails. The only thing I need to do is 5 minutes before the podcast, open my computer, review the details, and then just jump in. And post podcast, all the editing, my VA gets an automated email, she edits and she posts everything, and then people get the email. So that's one example. So I do a lot of automation, and
Hmm.
there's I agree it's very hard to keep up with, especially AI, right? You learn a system and then suddenly ChatGPT releases a new tool which makes the system you already developed completely worthless,
Obsolete.
but
Yeah.
yeah, obsolete.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's but the underlying concept is there, and so I usually, similar to in medicine, there is a concept of just-in-time learning, right? If you learn when you need to apply to a patient, you'll remember more. So when
Hmm.
I have a problem or I need a solution for something, then I go and look for the tools and
Hmm.
say, hey, which is the best tool available there? And then once I find something works, I'm not trying to find something better. Or so, as long as it works, I'm just satisfied, move on to the next thing. And then, of course, talking to different people and then watching a lot of YouTube videos. That's how I learn most things in life,
Yeah.
is watching YouTube.
That's everybody from, changing a part on your car to AI. But
Uh-huh.
I think that's interesting. That's an interesting approach how you think about automation and systems. My natural something that's held me back in my efficiencies is I always kind of pig-headed and just kind of think about like, hey, I should do a smart phrase in my EMR or something, and I'll just say, I'll do it next time. I'll do it next time, and I end up spending more time not sitting down and figuring out the system and automation than if I would just stop being so pig-headed and do it, And so I could use you as a coach to make sure that I'm using the tools and sitting down up front at the start of a project or a recurring, I guess it's more of recurring demands on my schedule the way you're
Yeah.
looking at it,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
you're protecting your schedule fiercely. And do you ever feel though that when you're trying to figure out systems that you just waste a ton of time trying to figure out how to develop the system?
Yes, definitely, because you have to try out different systems before
Uh,
you find one. So at least on the initial part, you waste a lot of time.
mm,
Um, I, I don't know if you ever heard of a site called AppSumo. If you don't know, you should go and see that site. I spent a lot of time in there. So there, what happens in AppSumo is entrepreneurs who are developing new software,
uh-huh.
they put it in that site for the when they start, right?
Okay.
And you can actually buy it for cheap for lifetime deal. So these are different AI tools, and it has a 60-day money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, you just give it back and get your money back. So
Uh-huh.
it's very addictive. So I spend a lot of time in AppSumo testing all these different new tools people are developing. And then they're developing amazing ideas and tools which you can apply directly into your business straight away.
Is it sort of like a beta test environment for people who are
Yes.
developing? Is
Uh-huh.
that, or is it
It's
to
it's
help?
more than a like a it's more than a bit it's a more mature product than a beta testing.
Okay.
But you don't know if these companies are going to exist in 2 years because they're all startups. So
Uh,
you're taking a risk by getting their product. But once you use it, you can always find some product related. Like there's always something similar to
mm,
that. If even if they go under, you can use other stuff. Um, so I'll give you an example. So if I have a video editing software which I got from them from
okay.
that site, which I still use. It's amazing, and I spent like $100 for it, and I've
Hmm.
been using it for more than 2 years,
Hmm.
right? Because it's a lifetime deal. And they also have cutting edge products like new concepts which are coming out. They're testing
Hmm.
the market kind of thing. So similar to that stuff, and yeah, that's how I learn new things. But sometimes you end up spending 10 hours for a thing which doesn't work out.
And then
So
your wife unplugs your computer or throws your phone across the room because
so
you're spending too much
the
time on
room I'm
YouTube.
in
So-
actually a closet in my house.
do you have to hide from your wife because of all the time you
That's
spend on this?
she has put me in a closet because of the same thing. So now I
Yeah.
can hide from her. But even then, so I would not be surprised in before we end the podcast, my two kids come in and open the door because I'm hiding here, but they still try to come in and
Same. I'm actually hiding in the kids' playroom right now, and so I usually record in my office, but they're playing downstairs and on a piano lesson. But yeah, same exact situation. But well, that's really interesting. So your physician colleagues, I mean, obviously you said you've published a lot of articles. You told me earlier, you're academic, you're full schedule clinician. Um, how do you see the kind of the evolution of Raj over time since you started doing these entrepreneurial ventures? How do you feel that relates to your career in medicine and just your approach to life and maybe even parenting in general?
so yeah, so a couple of I'll address the last one first because one of the reasons or motivations for me to do this entrepreneurial stuff is my kids.
Hmm.
Because my kids are exposed, all my friends are physicians, right? My social circle is
Hmm.
physician.
Hmm.
That's what's usually physician social circle tends to be very small and other physicians, and they're not exposed to anything else other than that. And then if you
Hmm.
ask my son, they'll say, "Hey, I want to be a doctor because that's the only thing he is seeing." But
Hmm.
there are so many amazing opportunities outside of medicine. I'm not discouraging them from being a doctor, but they're not well informed about all the opportunities before they decide they want to be a physician. And especially I'm an immigrant, right? I'm coming from another country. I come to US and I see so many opportunities you can do because of the systems are in place and there are so many opportunities and you don't have to bribe people to start a business. Systems work when you do something. When you have an idea, you're able to implement it. So I
Hmm.
want to show them a different path is possible. They see me now and then they'll start talking about real estate, for example,
Hmm.
because they constantly hear me talking about it. My daughters constantly see me doing AI stuff and editing and those kinds of things. She thinks about it. They may not be expert or they may not do it,
Hmm.
that they know what's possible. So that was one of the motivations for me to do it in the first place. Um, the second thing is how it influences my work. Again, we are so obsessed with work as physicians. Our identity is
Hmm.
completely tied to being a physician. That's good in the sense like we derive a lot of our satisfaction from our work and we feel a mission, right? That's why you become a physician. But when your identity gets tied, a primary identity gets tied to being your work,
Hmm.
you you get to see people get very frustrated with stuff because that's I think one of the reasons you get burnt out is it's so important for you. I'm not saying it's not important, but that's everything for you. The other thing you always see is some a 79-year-old guy, a physician, sitting there seeing patients. I'm not saying they're not good doctors, but a lot of times it's because they don't know what else to do in their life.
Hmm.
They don't want to retire because the identity, if I'm not a doctor, I'm nothing kind of
Hmm.
thing,
You're
situation.
right. Yep.
So this one gives you a different perspective. Being an entrepreneur, what I find is I don't get frustrated that much at work. I don't know. It's funny that happened. I actually started saying like, oh, there is so much other things in the world. If something doesn't happen the way you want, I'm not like completely obsessed with it and get frustrated. So actually, I think me doing the other things actually preventing burnout and actually making me become a better physician at work. So that's the way I see it.
Hmm. I totally agree. That was very well said, and I echo all those things you just said. I mean, I think it is protective because you are now wearing a different you have a different identity. And if things for instance, your job something changes at work, you have a new boss or something, that doesn't have the same effect on you because you have another income stream. You have another way that you know you could make a living if you had to. And you're not all tied up in your identity thinking like, which is kind of outside of your control when a boss changes or something like that. And I agree with you. I think that that's very protective. Um, Back to your kids, I had the same thought, and this might be even more so that you're thinking this, but since you've been investigating AI, the more and more I think about our kids, who both of us have kids around the same age, 12, 9, and 6 is what I have, but seeing AI evolve and technology evolve, even how that's going to affect medicine is pretty huge. And it makes me wonder even more. I've been questioning kind of the traditional college route for my kids. And I'm not so sure it makes a whole lot of sense unless they want to become something like a veterinarian, a physician, a dentist, or something directly tied to an outcome of a career. I'm trying to find ways to prepare them for this future as AI starts to take more and more hold over the workforce. And I think that one way that I'm trying to work through this is talking to them about having these conversations with my kids. I asked them about real estate. I told you that I'm working on an assisted living business, and they're very excited about that. And I tell them why I'm doing it and kind of how I'm approaching the deal. And I want them to think that way because I think there's always going to be room for an entrepreneur, whether AI is present or not. A human
Mhm.
still has to come up with a service and an idea, and that can help them kind of forge their way through their own destiny. And I want my kids to be able to think like that. And if they want, I'm not saying they can't go to college or anything. I'm just saying I'm not so sure that that's the right answer. Like if you're going to spend $300,000 to get a degree and you're not sure what you're going to do with that after, I mean, right now I've already learned enough personally that I could teach my kids what to do with $300,000 that would probably set them up for the rest of their life, right?
Mhm.
I bet you think the same way. And so I'm curious, knowing what you know about AI and if you've had thoughts like that. And then second, are there resources that you've exposed your kids to help kind of teach them or get their, be appreciative about money, be appreciative about entrepreneurship? What have you done there? Any resources?
Sure. So for coming to the AI question, I have I think AI is going to be, I'm not so afraid of AI.
Hmm.
Like you see all these horror things think, oh my God, AI is going to take over, those kinds of things. I'm more optimistic about AI, its potential to help humanity,
Hmm.
potential to free up our time, and hopefully my kids won't be working as much as I do, right? They probably don't have to do work 5 days a week anymore. Like we probably need to work only 3 days a week because AI is going to help us reach there. AI is going to, I'm confident it's going to help improve human lives, medicine better, new medicines, new things, right? So I'm not that worried about AI when compared to what the media makes it out to be. And so the NVIDIA guy Huang, he said, right, so AI is not going to take your job. The person who knows how to use AI is going to take your job, right? So there's a difference
Mm.
thing. So that's what we need to try and people. I think the fundamentals are going to be the same, even whether you're AI or not. Independent thinking, problem solving, logic, they're always going to play a role, regardless of whatever new shiny tools come through, right? So AI can do everything, but you need to know how to apply it to solve the problem you have at hand. So
Hmm.
that's what I try to teach my kids is, again, logical thinking, independent thinking, right? Trying to solve your own problems, me not hovering over them to try to, it's very difficult to do that as an Asian parent or an Indian parent, like
Hmm.
not to control their lives. But that's what I try to do is, hey, you fail at school, your problem, right? You try to fix, you try to come up with a solution, how to organize yourself, take your books you need to school or your PE clothes, or I try to stay away from spoon feeding my kids.
Hmm.
And once they know how to do things independently, whatever tools comes in, they will be able to use it. Of course, they're exposed to AI. Amazingly, what I found my kids is sometimes I tried to make them cheat the work at school. They actually pushed back and said, no, I don't want to use
Excuse me.
Chat GPT. I want to do it myself. So I was very impressed. Like, oh,
Seemed like a
this.
trick, Dad. You're tricking them.
So
That's
so in a way, I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things. Hey, you need to learn this, and you can start businesses. They're more relaxed about it than
mm.
I am, right? Which is probably good. Like as a kid, you need to be a kid. You don't want to be. you basically need other tools like logic, how to problem solve more than the actual tools. I'm not, so that's more important, I think, than learning the latest trick and tools.
Hmm. That's excellent.
Mhm.
It just occurred to me as we're talking about AI. Before I started this interview with you, I went to the website that you have, which again is realestateaisummit.com for your online summit that's coming up. And on that, there's the video, seemingly of you, but you admit that you're an avatar on that talking. And so now I'm wondering, Raj, is this even you? How do I prove it?
Yeah, that's where things are going, right? So again, the time management aspect of it.
Uh-huh.
I'll give you a couple of examples. So I started this real estate marketing company,
Hmm.
but I wanted to do a podcast because podcast is what you call the evergreen lead magnet.
Hmm.
So people can listen to your podcast 5 years from now, still come to you as like you can get business from people.
Sure.
But I didn't have the time to do it. I already had a real estate podcast. So what I did is I actually cloned my voice and then used ChatGPT to create marketing podcast. I created 50 episodes of it, gave it to my VA, and then she used my cloned voice to create those podcasts,
Wow.
right? So I have a 50 episode podcast on marketing, which I actually didn't do a lot of work on.
Wow.
And then now each episode is released every week. And then I get people listen to the podcast and then I get leads from that thing. The same thing with blogging and other stuff, right? So you can use AI. So the latest one is the tool you saw in my website is I basically cloned myself. It took me 5 minutes to clone myself, right?
Wow.
I actually
Yeah.
cloned in the same room we are sitting in. And then the software now has a clone of myself and it has also cloned my voice.
Hmm.
And I can make it say anything I want it to. Of course, the company I'm using, they use identity protection. So I cannot
That's what I was
just
going to ask you.
clone,
Oh,
I
yeah.
cannot clone you and because
Okay.
I have to do a specific reading of the phrases in that thing.
Hmm.
Now my VA can go in and create any video I need her to create of myself talking, right? Of course, if it is very, very important, I'm not going to use that tool.
Hmm.
But if it just something conveys a simple message, I'm going to use the tool, right? And it's getting better every day. And in very near future, you won't be able to differentiate whether you're talking to me in a podcast or is it my AI avatar. I always make sure though, whenever I use AI, I always disclose that it's AI.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Obviously, there's some kind of ethical issues around this. And then
Mhm.
identity protection is, I was going to ask you about
Mhm.
that because you could imagine if you're a celebrity even, but actually,
Mhm.
even just a local doctor, can you imagine if someone got a hold of of you and made it seem like you did something horrific or said something terrible?
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, that's something that we need to protect our own image and our own brand, you know?
Yeah.
So,
People, moreover, people don't like to be fooled.
hmm.
Right. So people, if they think they're listening to you, they don't want, even if the same message, they don't want an AI to give it to them. Later, they found out that AI did it. So they don't like to be fooled. For example, in our website, we use what you call chatbots. If you go to my website, there's always a chat button, and the AI is answering your questions.
Hmm.
Always disclose, hey, this is Sally AI assistant.
Hmm.
They don't want to be thinking they're talking to you, but then the AI is talking to them. So we
Hmm.
always disclose first. We also have, for example, as part of our marketing company, we have AI receptionist. So any business can use it. So if you call our number for my real estate business or my marketing business, you're going to talk to a person, which is AI,
Hmm.
and it's going to be a seamless conversation, right? But at the beginning, it's going to disclose saying I'm an AI assistant so that you know, but we have trained it so that it can have carry on like a podcast conversation with you and
Wow.
answer all the questions you need to.
So, Raj, did you in something like that, since I'm kind of new to this, is
Mhm.
in that situation, are you going through a company or an app or something that helps you develop that? Or is this something that you learned how to develop on your own? Like, are you?
So OpenAI, so
Mm,
like ChatGPT
yeah.
has all the tools.
Okay.
So I basically look at YouTube videos, and you need to basically know how to prompt
Mm.
stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the some companies can give you the actual agent voice and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to control the prompting of when I say prompt, it does what you tell it to do. So you have to give the information. And for example, if I'm a real estate investing company, I don't want my AI assistant to start giving people advice on how to invest because that's a legal problem. I had to tell the assistant, hey, this is your role. I want people who call this number to book an appointment with me. Right? That is your role. And these are the things you can answer. So I put in all the information on the back end,
Hmm.
and there is a specific way to prompt the AI so that it understands it. Um, I learned it through, of course, YouTube videos,
Hmm.
basically, right? Once you learn it, it's very easy. How to prompt engineering is a specific field. Once you learn how to prompt AI, then you can control what comes out of it.
Okay, thank you for that. So for those who might want to attend your summit, can you just explain what that is going to be going over? Is it teaching people how to use tools, or is it or kind of exposing them to the things that you're doing? What can they look forward to at that summit?
Sure. So we are using more and more AI in our own company, but there are other people who are, of course, using amazing things, right? So I'm just a starter, but there are other leaders in this field who are doing a lot of things. For example, people are using AI to find properties, investment properties. They're using AI to underwrite properties. People are using AI to do like a maintenance of the properties. Like a tenant sends you, hey, toilet is blocked. AI
Hmm.
takes care of everything. You are not even involved in the middle. It finds a person who's going to repair your toilet. It sends a picture to them, gets quotes, and then sends people to the thing. So you can control it anytime, but you don't have to be involved at all. And then people are using AI. For example, I use AI extensively for social media marketing. All my social media posts are done by AI, and I use AI to completely control my LinkedIn post. Right,
Wow.
all
Yeah.
the LinkedIn comments I make is done by AI. I'm not actually logging into LinkedIn at all.
Hmm.
Right, so those kinds of things. So we're going to show people different ways they can apply AI to the business, especially real estate. And they're going to get a flavor of what top people in the field are doing.
Hmm.
And then they can decide what tools they want to use. We are not going to teach the tools. That's not the aim because people generally sleep if I start teaching.
Yeah. They want
Right?
somebody to do it for them. Yeah.
They're going to be exposed to these are the things they do. And then if something is of high value, they can start implementing in their field. So there's going to be a 2-day virtual conference, completely free to register.
Oh, it
So
is.
there's no
Okay. I was
money
going to ask you.
involved.
Yep.
So they can go into the website realestateaisummit.com and then click on registration. We'll allow to have as many people as possible, and it'll be a high value for them.
Is it February 2nd through
February
5th?
7th and 8th, it's the
7th and
first
8th.
Friday and Saturday of February.
Okay.
So we knew that okay, some people are working full time, so that's why it's on the weekend, so they can dedicate some time for this conference.
And if they miss the initial dates, will there be a recording that they can
Yes, there is
watch?
a recording. If you want the recording, you have to pay for a paid ticket.
Ah, I gotcha.
But if you
Makes
want to
sense.
attend the conference, it's completely free.
That's awesome. That's really
Mhm.
cool. Um, so we talked a lot about AI, which I think is really interesting. And you've learned a great deal. It's ever evolving. I was a little bit curious if you could jump into the real estate side and how active you are in kind of real estate investments now, and how much of it is what we call active, and how much of it is more passive, and is it mostly syndications, that kind of stuff. What's going on in
Yeah.
that realm?
So I have my own single family rentals here in Houston, which
Hmm.
I actively manage. The other part is I'm mainly involved in multifamily investing. I along with my doctor colleagues, a lot of them, we invest in multifamily. We used to invest in what you call Class C.
Hmm.
We have moved on to Class A and new construction. So that's what we do right now is top of the line apartments. Um, the returns are maybe a little bit lower, but the risks are much lower. So the
Hmm.
risk benefit is great. So, and the latest one we did was we actually bought a 130 unit property in here in Houston. Um, and I'm actively managing. I'm an active partner. I sign on the loan. I am the asset management call. So I used to raise capital for other people's projects. Now I moved away from that. I want more control of
Hmm.
because people are trusting me and putting money. So I want to be more involved in the management. So the number of deals we do is less, like we do two, three a year, but I'm more actively involved in those deals.
How did you learn, Raj, how to become comfortable enough to put your name as the general partner and the kind of the operator of these deals? How
Mhm.
did you evolve there into feeling
So
comfortable doing that?
basically learning for a couple of years. That's why before I actually got into it, I was
Hmm.
doing a lot of learning, right? If you're a physician, I don't think this is very hard to learn, to be honest,
Hmm.
because we have gone to med school and I do research and those kinds of things. The basic principles is not very hard to learn. It's more boring, to be honest, to do the underwriting part of it. So once you know how to do underwrite a property, then you know what to look for. Like what are the assumptions people are making? That's that's the key thing, right? I can make an assumption and tell you that I'm going to get 50% return on your money, right? It's all based on my assumption. Whatever return I'm promising is based on my assumption, but is this assumption realistic?
Hmm.
So that takes some time for us to understand that stuff. And now I have gone through this multiple times. Now I know what people are assuming realistic or not. It may be realistic, but sometimes the whole market can come down. Regardless of your assumption, you can still lose money, right? So, for example, 2021 was the peak of real estate. Then after that, the interest rate went so high, no one could make money in the real estate business. So I always disclose those things and to my investors upfront and say, hey, these are my assumptions. This is why I think it's a good deal. But the highest risk you have is you could lose all your money because it's like any other investment, stock market, anything. So I disclose those things up front and then say these are the things we are doing to mitigate those risks, but no one can control the whole market, kind of thing.
And so when if a physician reaches out to you, I would assume it's through your website maybe, and they want to learn more about deals you may offer or just be, maybe learn about it. What's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, they can reach out through our website. It is reidoccapital.com, REIDOC capital.com.
Okay.
Or I'm most active in LinkedIn. So they can reach out to me in LinkedIn.
You mean your
And
AI bot on LinkedIn? You already told us. You blew your secret. All right, so if we talk to your
basically, the
AI.
bot is going to give them my calendar
Okay.
and then they can book an appointment with me and then I will be happy to talk to them directly. Yeah. Mhm.
Perfect. And so you're doing this all kind of after hours. You're taking care of patients all day long.
Mhm.
Um, is it something that brings you energy and excitement, or is it must, right? I mean, is it something you look forward to having these conversations with investors?
Oh, for sure, because I get to talk to so many different people. So I'm a
Hmm.
pediatric oncologist, right? I didn't know anything about other than pediatric oncology.
Right.
I speak to like gastroenterologists, some guy interventional radiologists, some guy doing cool things. Right? We
Hmm.
not only talk about investments, we talk about hey, what do you do, what part of the country you are in, how is the market there, and a lot of doctors are entrepreneurs themselves, right? They're running their own practice and stuff. We get to discuss about their practice, how do they do marketing. So I I go away from the main topic and talk about a lot of other things. So it's yeah, it it's a very rewarding talking to different people, get to know people other than immediate circles. So I
Hmm.
enjoy that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think back to AI again, I was just thinking that
Mhm.
we all have hated electronic medical records over the last decade or so. It's been so time consuming. And I finally see that there might be something that's going to help us. There's a lot of AI products, which I haven't been able to trial yet, but I'm hoping
Mhm.
to very soon, that can help you document so you can actually be present with the patient and not think about your documentation or possibly even your orders for the visit. They can do it while you're talking. From what I understand, I don't know if you've used these yet, but from what I understand, it really is very user friendly and does a really, really good job. Have you had any exposure to that?
So not because I'm in an academic hospital,
Ah, yeah, that's
usually the
true.
last to adapt these
Yeah, that's
kinds of
true.
things. I've
Yeah,
been pushing for it. I think
right.
the the thing for me always is the physicians should get on top of this and control how it's used. EMR, the reason we hate it is because it's designed for billing and administrators.
Hmm.
It's designed to make billing easier, not patient care easier.
Right.
And if you I think more and more physicians should be involved in this decision making design of these products so that it's user friendly for physicians.
Hmm.
Otherwise, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be like I already saw some post on LinkedIn where some system introduced AI and then they said, I want you to see more patients now because AI is helping you write the notes. So
Yep.
then it's not helping you spend more time with the patient.
Yeah,
It's
you're just moving
actually
faster and seeing more.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should get on top of it. We should be in the decision making stuff. I'm very passionate about involving physicians in leadership in hospitals. I think
Hmm.
that's a big, big mistake which has happened. I learned I was listening to this news thing in NPR this morning how Boeing went down, right?
Mm.
Boeing was an engineering-led company and it was at the top of the world, then it become a finance-led company, right?
Hmm.
MBAs-led company. Then the quality went down, the focus went down. Focus is different, right? The same thing in hospitals. If the hospital is led by healthcare workers, physicians, then I think the quality and thing will be maintained. If it is led by purely administrators, like I'm not saying administrators are bad. I think physicians should also be involved in the higher level of leadership.
Hmm.
Then I think the hospital will be good. Um, yeah, that is my viewpoint.
No, I agree with you,
Mhm.
and I think I'm ready to vote for you and
Mhm.
support you to develop some sort of new AI product and help us. I could see you doing that, developing a product to help all the other doctors and be represented better. So I vote for you, Raj. That's your new
Thanks.
role. Question for you: do you have any specific resources, like any good books on either like mindset, real estate investing, entrepreneurship? Even parenting, we touched on parenting a fair amount
Mhm.
and not trying not to screw up our kids is what I always say to our guests, how do doctors not screw up their kids? Do you have any books or any resources that you have really benefited from?
So the one thing I benefit from is I think a lot of us are physicians are control. I will not say freaks, but we like control over stuff, and we always try to think like, oh, I'm the guy who can do this thing the best. I'm always fighting that urge, right? So,
Hmm.
oh, I can do this much better than this second person. I can do this faster. I can finish this in 5 minutes. If I give this to that person, it's going to take 2 hours or whatever it is.
Hmm.
That actually inhibits growth and it actually inhibits like affects your time freedom, those kinds of things. So the best book I read, at least recently, was the book called Who Not How.
Yes. Yep. Great book.
Um, so the basic concept is like if you someone can delegation and someone can do it, just find that person to do it rather than you trying to do everything yourself or you trying to figure out how to do it. Even for it excites me to find how to do things, but once I figure it out, I usually don't do it myself.
Hmm.
I teach my VA or another person to do it. For example, podcast editing, I was very excited to learn how to do it.
Hmm.
Once I did it, I developed an SOP and gave it to my VA, and she can do it. Right? It's not worth spending my time on it. I could be doing something else. So I think that's one of the things I learned from books recently. Of course, um, I don't read books. I listen to them and I go on
Sure.
like a drive
Yeah.
stuff, and then yeah, basically keep an open mind and try to get ideas from fields other than medicine. If you're a doctor, we tend to have a very medicine focused thing, so try to listen to something outside other fields and we can learn a lot from the others.
Great advice.
Mhm.
I've been very inspired by our conversation, Raj. I could talk to you for hours. I really think I'm gonna have to bring you back on so that we can see where you're at with AI and in your
Mhm.
projects in the future. I'm gonna have to find a way to make sure that you are you, though, when you come on next time, 'cause especially as the technology evolves. But certainly an honor, to talk with you. And to learn about what you're doing. It's super impressive to see a physician working full time. I know that colleagues are looking at you and saying, how is he doing all of that? And I think your answer seems to be that you figured out ways to automate. That's your big thing. But do you have another response for people when they ask you how you do all these things or why you do all of these things?
It's, people are not going to like my response because I
Okay. All right, let it out there. Come on, we can edit it later.
Yeah, so I'm used to working 80 hours a week
Uh-huh.
my whole life, and if I do less, I feel bored.
You can't
I,
sit,
I
yeah.
like working.
You don't sit idle well.
Yeah, I sleep less, and then if I'm awake, I like to do some things, right? Of course, uh, being with the kids is important. Those kinds of things. I'm not discounting that, but
Hmm.
I'm not into yeah relaxing or weekends. I still work. It's that's fun for me, so that's why it's no different. Uh,
And your wife's a physician too. We
mhm.
forgot to mention. So there's a
So
lot of
we,
that
we
going on.
we we like juggling stuff, and I feel a sense of accomplishment at the end of the week. So, oh, we did what we wanted to do, right? So,
Checkbox, checkbox. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great.
Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to share with the audience? Any pearls of wisdom before we part ways
So
here?
the one thing we talked about, and of course we discussed in the thing, if you want to do something outside of medicine, just do it. Don't wait for the right time, and it's okay to fail, right? So the greatest thing is people look, oh, am I going to fail? It's okay to fail, and also don't worry about what others think, right? That's always prevents me from doing stuff.
Mm,
Oh my God, if I do something outside, what will people think about me, right? So that's always in. So it's a very hard thing to do, but don't worry about what others think. We have only one life. You don't want to regret when you're 70 years old saying, I could have done that, I could have done this. So that's one of the motivations for me. I don't want to have regrets at the end of the day. Right. So
totally agree.
just do if you want to do something, just do it.
Yeah, I think we all admit that even on our if we look at our careers in medicine where we've maybe not done something as good as we could have in the past, that's the biggest source of learning that we've carried with us through our time. And so I agree with you. Don't be afraid to fail. And I tell my kids, that line "fail" stands for first attempt in learning. So I didn't make that up, but and they're used to my cheesy dad lines like that, motivational. But I think it makes sense, first attempt in learning. So,
Mhm.
thanks again for your time. Good luck with the summit. I'll probably tune into that myself. I think it's really exciting what you're doing, and can't wait to have you back on again, Raj. Thanks so much for your time. Um, and to the audience, go ahead and follow Raj. Reach out to him on LinkedIn and talk to his bot, or attend his conference. Again, that's realestateaisummit.com, or you can check him out at reidoccapital.com. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Mhm.
Feel free to reach out to him. He's an excellent resource for you. And then, of course, don't forget to sign up for our listserv at physiciansfirst.substack.com. And if you would, please share this with a friend or colleague. We all need to teach each other and try to protect ourselves from burnout and live the most healthy life we can and work on our health, wealth, and well-being. So thanks again. Look forward to talking again soon. And remember to do common things uncommonly well.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.